Hey, my name is Extravaganza Grotesca, and I want to start this video with a story. When I was around 14-15 years old, I was home alone on a Sunday night. My parents and siblings had gone out to the cinema, and I had to stay at home because I had to study for my finals at school. The whole house was in darkness except for the little lamp that I had on my desk. It was an old building and most of the apartments were offices, so I knew that during the weekends, most of the building was empty. I suddenly heard someone knocking on the door. I wasn't expecting anyone and my parents had keys, so I just ignored it. But they knocked again, and this time it was stronger. I got a bit scared and then I heard footsteps going to the floor upstairs. So I thought, okay, I have to go. And I went quietly to the front door. I didn't see anything when I looked through the eye hole, but I could hear them knocking upstairs, which was another office, so I knew nobody would answer. Suddenly, I saw two people running all the way down, and I thought, okay, that's it. They're leaving. But I waited, and I kept looking through the eye hole. Out of the blue, a third person came downstairs and he stood on my front door, right in front of me, as if he knew I was on the other side, and I felt like he was looking at me. I literally panicked, but then he left. I never knew who they were or what they wanted, and having some strangers breaking into your house with no connection with you or no other purpose than just to probably harm you is a really real fear, because just that feeling of vulnerability that you get when you think that someone might transform the safetiness and the comfort of your own house into a deadly trap, it's the scariest thing ever. Home invasion is a very effective horror subgenre because it always manages to scare people. Mainly because if you watch a film about some strangers that have no connection with you that enter in your house just for the purpose of killing you, it's terrifying because there's no other reason than just killing for the sake of killing, and that happens in real life. You know, remember Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker? The Strangers. It's a film from 2008 directed by Brian Bertino, and it is precisely about this topic. The director said that he got inspired by two real-life events. The first one, it's the famous Tate Murders that happened in the summer of 1969. Actress Sharon Tate, Roman Polanski's pregnant wife, was murdered together with 4 other people by some members of the Manson family at their home in Cielo Drive in Los Angeles. I'm pretty sure most of you already know about this case, and I don't want to talk about it any more than what I just said because I think the case deserves a full video, so I'll be talking about this in the near future. The second thing that served him as inspiration was a personal event that happened to Brian when he was a kid. One night he was home with his little sister, and at some point someone knocked on the door. His little sister went to open the door and they asked for someone that clearly didn't live there. She said that they got the wrong house, so they left. Later on, he found out that those people were knocking on the doors of the houses on his neighborhood, and whenever they found a house that was empty, they would break in and try to rob as many things as they could from the house. That traumatized him, and that's a story pretty similar to mine, and I'm guessing some of you might have similar stories as well. And that's exactly why home invasion is so effective. Because you never know who's gonna knock on your door. Then there's another case that, even though it hasn't been confirmed by the director as being one of his influences for the film, it's way more terrifying. The Keddie Cabin Murders. Sue Sharp and her 5 children, all in between the ages of 5 and 15, relocated to California after separating from her abusive husband. She rented a cabin at the Keddie Resort in Northern California. It was cabin number 28. On the evening of the 11th of April 1981, Sue was at the cabin with her youngest 2 sons, Greg and Rick, and their friend Justin, who was spending the night with them. Johnny, her eldest son, arrived sometime later with his friend Dana, and little Tina got back to the cabin shortly after from a friend's cabin. Shayla, on the other hand, was spending the night with a friend in a cabin next door. On the early hours of the following day, Shayla came back to cabin 28. As soon as she opened the door, she found the dead bodies of her mum, her brother Johnny, and his friend Dana. Everything was covered in blood. She panicked and ran back to her friend's cabin where she had spent the night to get help and call the police. While waiting for the police, the neighbors took a look around, looked through the bedroom window, and saw the 2 little ones with their friend Justin still sleeping completely unharmed. So they managed to pull them out through the window. When police arrived, they saw that the bodies were in fact in the front room. Their limbs had been wrapped in white medical cloth tape and the extension cable from the TV. The autopsies revealed that the murders were extremely brutal. They had wounds done by 2 different hammers, a rifle that was never found, a butcher's knife, and a kitchen knife that was found at the crime scene with its blade completely bent by the force that was used on it. One of them had also been strangled, and Sue was naked from the waist down, and her underwear was stuffed inside her mouth. By the crime scene, it was determined that they did put up a fight. It looked like the main target was Sue. Johnny and his friend walked in to help her, but none of them made it. 3 of the children, Shayla, Greg and Rick, together with their friend Justin, were alive and well. However, it took them quite a lot of time to discover that little Tina was missing. I mean, did anybody knew how to count? So as soon as they noticed that, they put up a huge search, unfortunately with no results. Justin, the little boy's friend, told the police that he had witnessed the murders. However, later on, he changed his statement and he said that it was probably more like just a dream. So taking this into account, police still decided to take Justin's statement. He saw 2 men. One of them had a mustache and short hair. The other one was clean shaved and he had long hair. He said that one of them had a pocket knife which he used to stab Sue on the chest. The other had a hammer. He then said that he saw little Tina walking into the room and the men took her out of the cabin and came back without her. He said he got scared, so went back to bed and tried really hard to fall back asleep. A psychologist evaluated Justin as well as his statement, and he said that it was very likely that he had actually witnessed the murders and his subconscious transformed it into a dream as a defense mechanism. With this information, as well as some other statements, the police decided to release the sketches of the two men. Apparently, two very similar men were seen around the area some weeks before the murders. Unfortunately, they were nowhere to be found. In April 1984, 3 years after the murders, a fragment of a skull was found in a place around 80 kilometers away from where the murders took place. As soon as this information was released to the press, the police received an anonymous call.
I was watching the news, and they were talking about this girl who found at the telephone. She had pretty help. And I was just wondering if you thought of the murder up in Keddie, up in Swift County a couple years ago, where a 12-year-old girl was never found.
The forensic analysis indeed confirmed that it was hers. Some more other little bones and personal belongings were also found in that same area. Throughout the investigation, there were many leads and suspects. Those went from people that were at a party that Johnny and Dana were before coming back to the cabin that night, to cult or gang-related murders. But they had two main suspects: Martin Smart, who was Justin's stepdad, and his friend John Bobbitt. Martin's wife and Sue were actually friends, and it was discovered later on that Sue had been helping Martin's wife to take the decision of leaving him under claims of abuse, while at the same time Sue was having an affair with him. Nevertheless, even though everything pointed at them too, police never managed to get strong enough evidence in order to arrest them, and both men have died since. As of today, the case still remains unsolved. The massacre meant the end of the Keddie resort, and Cabin 28 was demolished in 2004. It's a pretty scary story, isn't it? As the last fun fact, The Strangers, the film, was shot in chronological order, which is pretty rare in a film production. And Liv Tyler's father, Steven Tyler, before making it big with Aerosmith, as a teenager, he had another band called The Strangers. Once again, we've reached the end of the video. I hope you liked it, and thank you so much for being here with me. Please do let me know if you know some sort of story similar to this one. I'm intrigued. And don't forget, if you subscribe, I'll be able to see you all next time. Like, if he knew I was on the other side of the door. Tienes que esperar a acabar la historia. Se me había olvidado decirte eso. Of... No. Casi, pero no me acabo mi historia.
¿En serio? O sea, entonces, ¿qué tengo que ir más lento para que tú termines de contarlo?